first 4 series of My Greek Odyssey, we visited islands of the Saronic, the Ionian, the Dodecanese, the Western Cycladic, and the Northern Aegean. In Series 5, we're seeing the Southern and Central Cycladic. Islands you've never heard of, like Lέβιθα, Anafi, Donusa, and ones you know well, like Santorini, and the big one, Crete.
This episode of My Greek Odyssey will see me visiting 3 islands, each with their own unique stories. It all begins on Amorgos, a mountainous landmass that, despite its pretty scenery, numerous beaches and quaint villages, is yet to have been overwhelmed by the forces of mass tourism. Of particular note is a spectacular monastery, unlike any other place of worship I've seen. I'll also be visiting the remote and sparsely inhabited islands of Lέβιθα and Kínαρο, where life is a complete contrast to that of the populated neighbouring landmasses. Our journey has taken us about 50 kilometres due north of Anafi to the island of Amorgos. It's the easternmost Cycladic island and one of the prettiest in the group, not just for the landscapes, but the towns too.
Coming into Amorgos, you'll land in one of 2 ports, most probably this one of Katapola, which means Katapolis, lower city, because it was the lowest city of an ancient Roman town. And the town actually started there on the southern hill of Minoa. Now, the thing I like about this place is that you can wake up to the smell of fresh bread. You can just sit here, get an Airbnb and stay here for the week. It's just such a relaxing place. Not with too many tourists. It hasn't been invaded. It just feels good.
Of a morning, the port is a peaceful setting, with the gentle sea breeze delivering the aroma of freshly baked bread across the harbour.
Mate, it's making me hungry.
Amorgos is a fairly large landmass of around 120 square kilometres, with a population of a little under 2,000. And despite the natural and man-made beauty, it somehow remains a relatively quiet place, not overrun by tourists. The island is brimming with old-world charm, where small tavernas and cafes serve fresh local produce that you can enjoy while taking in the slow-moving scenery. One thing that you'll appreciate is that for an island with few visitors, there are still all the creature comforts that the modern traveller looks for, and it comes with an authenticity that's lost in the tourist traps and busy islands. Another thing to note is that Amorgos is a place where you can find your own adventure, and there's no better way to explore the towns than by foot. Around every corner and hidden in the alleyways are all sorts of gems.
At one point in time, there was a massive dynamic shift in the Mediterranean as a result of the pirates. They ran rampant. Everybody fled the coastline and went into the mountains. Here in Amorgos, in the 9th century, they left Katapola and they came up here and established Chorιά, this beautiful village. It's full of nooks and crannies and nice little bridges over, and it's become a nice place to live in.
A short drive from the main port of Katapola is the capital and largest village of Chorιά, which is located centrally on the island. Sitting 400 metres above sea level and surrounded by mountains, it feels quite remote. Adding to the sense of isolation is the serenity. The maze-like alleyways are seemingly deserted, with little more than the sounds of birds and a gentle breeze filling the air.
Very few people around, they're all asleep. 2 to 5, everybody sleeps.
The people here, like many of the sleepy islands, operate on their own schedule, with a late start to the day and an afternoon siesta. Rest assured, there are plenty of places to grab a bite to eat, even if it does look like everything is closed. Hidden amongst the Cycladic architecture are lots of small cafes where it's easy to lose an hour relaxing in the shade. It's a bit of a labyrinth with cobbled paths leading to dead ends and long alleys, where the whitewashed buildings all start to look the same. My strategy was to follow my nose and find a bite to eat before grabbing the key to the 13th century Venetian ruins that tower above the town.
No worries. Better not lose it. Touch small.
Anyone can go there. You just need to visit Stella at the Thalura Cafe.
This volcanic plug is the foundation for what is a medieval castro that sits within the centre of Chorιά.
If you're anything like me, you'll immediately be drawn to explore the castle. It stands sentinel, looking over the town below, clearly visible as you drive into Chorιά. You can't miss the thing, and while it might not be terribly big, it has a presence, largely created by the interesting rock formation it sits atop. Mind you, the steep approach to get in presents a challenge for the knees and the lungs.
Oh, hopefully the key fits. The castle, if you can call it a castle, started construction around 1207 by Jeremy and Andrew Gizzi, which don't really sound like medieval names. And I think it was continued on by the Venetians, but it looks just like a small lookout. I don't know if you could fight from it. What you can do though, is you can see everything out there. So it's probably a lookout for the locals to avoid, I don't know, piracy. If they saw pirates, mate, it was all over.
The castle sits at the highest point, providing views across the island and along the coast. It was likely built out of fear, not as a way of fortifying a position or showing wealth and power, but to provide a place from which they could keep an eye out for approaching raiders. It may not look like it, but this fortification was used to protect the entire island from pirate raids. Looking out from here, I could see towering peaks, and I was told that to truly get an appreciation for the scale of Amorgos, you have to go out on the trails and hike across the mountainous heart. Before that though, I had to get the key back to Stella. There's no better way to get some exercise and see a place than a hike. And on Amorgos, when it comes to trails, you're spoilt for choice. Joining me on the hike was Anna. She's actually a viewer of the show from America, who contacted me through our website to say she frequents her home island every year and would love to show me around. So naturally, when the opportunity arose to steer me to these shores, I had to contact her.
Look at that. And just imagine that that view is going to get so much better as we go higher.
Pretty cool.
You'll love it.
Pretty cool. Anna, I don't know, 15 times you've been to Amorgos. Why do you keep coming back here? And why did you and your husband decide to buy a house here?
Like I said, Greece is a bullseye, Amorgo, the center. But more importantly, I feel like there's like a magnetism to this island. It's my happy place in the world. I almost have to force myself to go visit other places.
Right.
But I think what draws me the most here is that it's an island stuck in time. It's a moment in time. It doesn't change. You come back and it's like visiting a childhood, visiting grandma's house, really.
Yeah.
The people are the same. They're kind, they're gentle. And it brings back
Memories?
memories.
You must have a lot of memories from here.
I do. Beautiful memories of hanging out, going to the beach, enjoying family, having great dinners. My husband and I got engaged here.
Wow.
We baptized our son here. And again, we want this island to live not only in us, but also in our kids as well. Someplace that brings them a sense of constant in an ever-changing world.
Well, that answers my question.
There you go.
That's awesome. Anna, you're a university lecturer, and that's a hard enough, busy life, but you have 2 children, you're homeschooling them. Your husband's a state senator. How come you're not a bundle of nerves? You're so relaxed. I mean, how do you live your life with all that to do?
I come here. This is my place to decompress and to recalibrate.
Right. That's it. I mean, you come here and all that other stuff you do just sort of pales into insignificance and you recharge.
It fades away. You come here and it fades away, and the beautiful landscape just takes you in.
Right. So, are there any specific memories that you ingrain in your children so that they can get Amorgos into them?
That's a good question. I think what I want them to feel is that freedom, security, the independence. It's a feeling I want them to have, not as much the memory. I think the memory comes secondary. It's that feeling, it's the smells, it's the independence, the fact that the island is theirs to do what they want, to enjoy, to take care of, to explore, to be adventurers.
Well, they just can't run around in Fresno like they do here. I mean, they can stay out past 9:30 and do all sorts of stuff here, eh?
They can. They have a freedom here that they won't have anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah. We better get going because it's getting pretty hot.
It is.
I can honestly relate to everything Anna said. I remember my times as a 10-year-old visiting my parents' island of Githera. Coming from a big city, you don't get the childhood freedom to roam around all day and into the evening without a care and no adults watching over you. Today, decades later, I'm now in my parents' shoes, and when I visit Greece, I get this feeling of total relaxation because my son is safe and secure wherever he goes. I'm not saying the big cities are bad, but that the island villages are more carefree and relaxed, lightening a burden that's part of the modern-day rat race.
It's not too far. We're almost there, Peter.
I've heard that many, many times on a walk in Greece.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Look at that.
We're above the clouds.
We are. You can almost touch them.
Don't know if we're going to catch that goat, Anna.
They're pretty quick and fast
it's-
on their feet.
They're on home ground too, you know.
We are definitely at a disadvantage.
Yeah. Anna, that last kilometre, no trail, no motorpati.
Nothing.
I'm not too sure if I want to walk with you again. I'm absolutely saturated here, but we've made it to the top. That's the most important thing.
Yep, you just head up.
Yeah, here we are.
Well, we made it.
We made it, we made it. Impressive though, we're 700 metres up and there's not many places in the Greek islands where you can see as many islands. I mean, we can see
So clear.
Ikaria, we can see Naxos, Skinusia, Kufunisia. You can see over that way, I think there's Eos and Santorini. Man, it's everything.
It's beautiful.
And there's your place down there.
My Katapola.
Yeah, but we better start heading back down, eh?
Yep. We've earned our lunch.
We have. I feel like a goat.
We might have to roast ourselves then to
Yeah.
eat it later.
The scenery on the way up was stunning. But when we reached the top, that unbelievable 360-degree view just hit us with all the drama and theatre that very few places in the Aegean can. It felt as though we could almost touch the nearby islands through the passing clouds. Sharing the experience with someone as positive and refreshing as Anna made it all the more enjoyable. Her story was remarkably similar to mine, and it gave me a heightened belief that the island way of life may well be where my future is heading. There's no place on Amorgos more photographed than the magnificent cliff face architecture we're about to show you. Pilgrims come to this far-flung island from all over the world with the sole purpose of visiting this unique and famous monastery. Even for the non-religious, it's a special sight.
Two monasteries received charter from the Emperor of Byzantium in 1088. One of them was Patmos, which is the #1, and this one, Panagía Kosoviotyssa. It is just an unbelievably spectacular looking monastery that needs a bit of a walk. I'm headed up.
The bright white monastery sits in contrast to the darker, muted hues of the rocks. It acts like a beacon, drawing you in from afar. Even from well out to sea, you can glimpse the shining building clinging to the cliffs. Perhaps it provides some reassurance to fishermen caught in rough waters.
Now this cliff face, it's hard to look up at, but it's 400 metres high, and the monastery sits 260 metres above sea level. Now it's lime-washed white at the moment, but at one stage it was the same colour as the stone that you see here, so it's hidden from the sea, hidden from the pirates. Long climb.
Climbing up to the monastery, every step gives you a chance to admire not only the looming building, but also the spectacular and strikingly blue water of the Aegean. It's a fitting approach for such a special landmark.
This is such a good spot to come and sit down. One, because I need a rest, and two, because it's the final approach and you get a sense of the scale and architecture of this beautiful monastery. It's a lot bigger than what you see when you first come around the corner. And you've got to appreciate, in the 18th century, there were 100 monks living here. Today, there's only 2. What impresses me is its uniqueness and the number of architects, designers, writers that come here for inspiration. You know, I could look at it all day, but I've got to keep walking.
As you can see, despite the many pilgrims and tourists that frequent the monastery, this is a peaceful setting. Everyone that visits respects its importance. And the effort it takes to get here means that only the more discerning traveller visits.
There are some not so strict dress regulations, no mini skirts, no shorts. And they've got some pants here for you to wear, so it's not too bad. Wow. These stairs have got these wonderful marble treads that have been honed by many years of foot traffic, almost polished. Last few steps. Γεια σας.
Γεια σας, καλώς ήρθατε. Τι κάνετε, καλά?
Καλώς σας βρήκαμε. Ωραία.
As I mentioned earlier, today there are only 2 monks that reside here. Their principal role is to maintain the monastery and greet the pilgrims. Father Spiridon has dedicated much of his life to the place, and his pride is evident in the way he openly welcomes people and the warm hospitality.
Λοιπόν, η εικόνα εκτιτόρισα είναι εδώ. Παναγία Κωνσταντιώτισσα.
Ναι.
Φανταστείτε, την εικόνα δεν είναι πολύ μεγάλη, αλλά αυτή είναι το ιερό κοιμήλιον της Μονής Χωζιβά, που από εκεί έφυγε τροποντινά κυνηγημένη, διωγμένη και ήρθε εδώ διάλεξη.
The journey of the icon is as dramatic as the setting in which it now hangs. It's believed that monks, escaping Arab plunderers in Palestine, took it and sailed almost aimlessly across the sea. They reached the cliffs of Amorgos, and as it reminded them of the rocky desert they had come from, it was a fitting location to establish a new place of worship.
Σεισμό όταν ήσουν εδώ, είχε σεισμό.
Έχουν γίνει σημεία, πέφτουν βράχια, αλλά το μοναστήρι και η Παναγιά φυλάει.
Ναι, και σε φυλάει.
Ποτέ δεν έχει...
Πέτρες πέφτουνε.
Πάρα πολλές, χαλή
Ναι,
βάση.
εδώ.
Και εδώ, ναι. Εδώ είναι ένα μπαλκόνι στο Αιγαίο.
Το πρωί ξυπνάς και το βλέπεις αυτό.
Εδώ βλέπεις όχι μόνο αυτό, βλέπεις και την Ανατολή του ηλίου.
Ναι.
Δύση δεν βλέπουμε ποτέ, αλλά Ανατολή.
Ναι.
I couldn't think of a more dramatic and fitting setting for a monastery. There's an indisputable awe about the place that grips you from the moment you first set sight on the shimmering white walls in the distance. But despite its powerful presence, there's a warmth to it.
Υγεία να έχουμε όλοι, Παναγία κοντά μας.
Γεια μας. Γεια μας.
Καλή πατρίδα.
Ναι. Τώρα τι είναι.
Ψημένη ραχή.
Ψημένη. Δική σας, έτσι.
Society has created a number of boundaries and stereotypes that constantly and subliminally affect the way we perceive people from all walks of life. I've come to know many gentlemen of the cloth, be it priests, archbishops or monks. Father Spiros is not what you would expect, or should I say, what society makes you think of how a monk is. The day had only just begun, and I wanted to follow him around a bit to see how he spent his hours. And I was lucky to be invited back to his house to help him make a fresh batch of his famous raki. After tasting Father Spiro's sweet moonshine, known as ψημένη ρακί, I just had to see how he makes this rocket fuel. It has a strong flavour of cinnamon and honey, which is quite unique. However, something tells me that it's not necessarily going to be the healthy concoction Helen would approve of.
And what's in there? Τι έχουμε εκεί μέσα?
Λοιπόν, εδώ πέρα έχουμε νερό. Βασικά θέλουμε 20 κιλά ρακί.
Right. 20 kilos of raki, yeah?
Και 20 κιλά ζάχαρη.
20 kilos of sugar. Helen, I'm sorry, but you know, it's holy, so it's okay.
Λοιπόν,
No worries.
3 κιλά ζάχαρη από τα 20 τα πιάσουμε εδώ να τα κάνουμε καραμελέ.
We're caramelizing 3 of the 20 kilos of sugar.
Εσύ κάνε.
Κάνω εγώ. Αλλά σιγά σιγά. Slowly. He's like, I thought Kyriako was heavy, but you're heavier than Kyriako. So this is going to become a caramelized sugar. That's it.
Και την υπόλοιπη ζάχαρη λίγη τη βράζουμε εδώ με διάφορα μυρωδικά. Είπαμε ξύλο κανέλα,
Cinnamon,
γαρίφαλο,
cloves, yep.
δυόσμος,
The which is mint,
φύλλα λεμονιάς
leaves of the lemon tree,
και φλίδι πορτοκαλιού.
and the skin of an orange.
Αυτά λοιπόν τα βράζουμε και εκεί μέσα βάζουμε την υπόλοιπη ζάχαρη λίγη.
So the rest of the 17 kilos of sugar goes in there.
Την υπόλοιπη ζάχαρη, έτσι είναι, για να γίνει δίποτο. Και όταν βλέπετε πιάνει και βράζει,
Do you reckon we need to watch our weight with this or what?
βγάζουμε λίγο γιατί θα πάει έξω.
Right.
Το βάζουμε εδώ.
Oh, okay, and it goes into the raki. You know what I love about Father Spiro? He's fully vertically integrated. He does everything. Everything. He cooks, he makes the ψημένη raki, he gives it out. Been doing it for 50 years, since he was 17.
Βέβαια. Εδώ είναι η μάνα.
Εδώ είναι η μάνα. He's a tower of strength.
Θα σε πληρώσουμε τώρα εδώ. Και νερό και ζάχαρη. Εδώ.
Ναι.
Father Spiro is a man on a mission. Nothing stops him when he's set a task.
Helen, look away.
With his high energy levels, you'd think he was still in his youth.
Εδώ το άλλο.
Όλο. Like there's not enough sugar here. Και αυτό.
Ναι.
Mate, this is hard work, I'll tell you what. You know, the life of a monk is not easy. But the guy's smiling all the time. He breaks the plate, he's still smiling. Hey?
This reminds me of my childhood, watching my sister make toffee. It looked and smelled exactly like this brown, caramelised emulsion. I was wondering when Father Spiro was going to dilute this very concentrated sugary mix. And just as the thought came, he violently assaulted the boiling concentrate with cold tap water. It seemed a little aggressive and agricultural, but what do you expect from a 1,000-year-old recipe?
Ακόμη.
Now that's going to go into the raki now. So let's go and check it out. Είσαι καλά, μπορείς εσύ να το κάνεις όλο.
Μπορώ.
Father Spiro's raki has somewhat of a cult following, with tourists always asking where they can get some. Thanks to the rise in its popularity, he's constantly in the kitchen making new batches.
Τώρα θα δοκιμάσουμε.
Θα δοκιμάσουμε, we got to try it, of course we got to try it. Δεν είναι λίγο μεγάλα τα ποτήρια? There you are, Mr. Cameraman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Να είστε καλά. Όλα πάνε κατευχή.
Ναι.
Προσπάθεια να αποδοθεί, να πάνε όλα καλά. Κορίτσια, στην υγεία σας.
Γεια σας.
Πολύ ωραίο. Γεια στα χέρια σου.
Ήθελα ακόμα λίγη ζάχαρη μέσα.
Needs more sugar.
Θέλω ακόμα λίγη ζάχαρη. Όχι.
Νομίζω αρκετή είναι.
Αρκετή.
Ναι. Αλλά ξέρεις τι. Ωραίο. Ξέρεις, δεν έχω μοναχό φίλος, τώρα έχω.
Μαζί.
Ευχαριστώ.
Στη φιλία μας.
Ναι.
Now that was an experience to remember. Not only have I made a new friend, but I've got the recipe to his legendary raki. I left Father Spiro's humble home and made my way south, travelling through the fertile agricultural land where people have grown grains and other crops for thousands of years. Being a relatively remote island, they require a certain amount of self-sustainability, so any flat ground is planted and the gentle hillside slopes are terraced. Despite the arid appearance, it's quite a productive island, and just like most parts of Greece, what they're able to grow or harvest from the nearby sea directly influences the food culture. Speaking of the sea, a short walk from the coastal road takes you to a fascinating shipwreck. It's a modern-day ruin with a morose yet strangely beautiful appearance to it. Tourists are drawn to this little cove to see what's become somewhat of a landmark on the island.
Inland. Well, it certainly finished inland or on land.
The irony of the ship's name is uncanny. Apparently, it was being sailed by pirates travelling from Cyprus. Wild seas struck them, and before they could find a safe harbour, the ship was dashed on the rocks. It's since been renamed Olympia.
Forget it. No. At one stage I could do it.
The wreck lies close to the southeasternmost point of Amorgos. This part of the island is where you can also find several ancient ruins that help piece together the region's millennia-long history. The area of Arkeksini is the most well-known, and of particular interest to me is the Tower of Aghiatriada. It sits inland, surrounded by quaint villages where life moves slowly.
The northern part of the island is more mountainous and dramatic. As you come to the south, you find rolling hills and valleys, much more suitable to agriculture. And you can see that this valley is still being worked after 2,500 years. And we know how valuable it was because of this baby here. Professor Lila Maragul, who is a local born and raised here, has been studying this structure and others in the area for decades. She's answered a lot of questions, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions. When you walk in here, you can tell there is a central tower, there's a courtyard, but there is more. Apparently there's a guardhouse over there. There is an apartment, a two-storey apartment just here. We think that there's a possibility this was privately owned by some sort of overlord or land baron that governed the whole area. And he had this to protect himself from the local people or from pirates. We're unsure. But what we do know is that he's inscribed his name just up here. And I want to find that right now. Here it is here. Right. Now, the gentleman's name was Ktisifondos. There's an ita, but I've seen a fi there, and there's supposed to be, I can't see it. You'll see it. It's there.
The Tower of Aghiatriada was built during the 4th century BC using locally quarried limestone. There's a second theory regarding its origin and purpose. It's also possible it was built as a part of a larger network of similar structures that were used as lookouts and signal towers. While there was still a few more places we wanted to film on Amorgos, a perfect weather window opened up, and we made the decision to seize the opportunity and head to a couple of small remote islands that are normally difficult to reach.
I love the story of Lέβιθα because it tells you how these families live in their sustainable way. All because of one animal. And here, there's a plethora of them. 600 goats on the island, and that's what keeps it going.
This 4 square mile landmass is home to just a single family. There are no hotels, no rooms to rent, and no shops. But a summer's day won't go by without several sailing boats dropping in to visit one of the Aegean's best kept secrets, a soul tavern that's run by 2 brothers and their mother.
Hello. How are you? I love the way the 2 boys have adapted to change. Even though there hasn't been much change, they do use photovoltaic cells, they use a bit of wind and a little bit of other technology, but they trade their goats, and their kids are in Patmos at school, and eventually their kids will come here and work the fields, this 9,000 acre Greek island. I mean, it's a lifestyle many people would love to aspire to.
It takes a special kind of person to embrace the isolation and solitude of a place like this. I, for one, couldn't do it. No matter how many sailors visited or how many goats I had, without the constant companionship of a wide variety of close family and friends, I'd go mad. Not Tassos, though. He's one of the brothers who calls Lέβιθα home. He spent his lifetime living and working on the island.
Έχετε τη ταβέρνα, πουλάτε κατσικίσιο κρέας, πουλάτε και τυρί.
Η δουλειά μας είναι αυτή. Η δουλειά μας είναι αυτοί οι τσοπάνιδες.
Δεν ξέρω για τσοπάνιδες, αλλά... Βοσκοί. Ναι, στη ταβέρνα έχετε το κρέας, το τυρί, όλο δικό σας, έτσι.
Αφού όλα ό,τι παράγουμε εδώ προσπαθούμε να τα δώσουμε, γιατί δεν είναι και εύκολα να τα δώσεις.
Πόσα κατσίκια έχετε εδώ τώρα?
Τα γιδοπρόβατα είναι μπρος από 500.
Και το χειμώνα τι κάνετε εσείς?
Με τα ζώα, φτιάξουμε κανένα τοίχο, να περιτηθούμε εδώ τα πράγματα.
Ναι.
Η δουλειά του με τα ζώα δεν σταματάει χειμώνα καλοκαίρι.
Ναι.
Και το χειμώνα πρέπει να τα προσέξεις, να γεννήσουν, να τα βοηθήσεις όταν κάνει κρύα, να τα ταΐσεις, όταν δεν έχει βρέξει.
Τώρα έχετε 500-600 ζώα, πόσο γεννιέται το χρόνο?
Εξαρτάται τη χρονιά.
Ναι. Φέτος?
Έχει χρονιά που μπορεί να έχεις 350 μικρά, έχει χρονιά που μπορεί να έχεις 250, έχει χρονιά που μπορεί να έχεις περισσότερα.
Ναι.
Εξαρτάται τη χρονιά.
Ναι.
If you haven't heard the term paddock to plate, well, this is the quintessential example of that experience. You see, everything we're about to eat is grown, caught, or raised on Lέβιθα. The meat, fish, vegetables, cheese, olive oil, the list goes on. If I could give our crew the option of dining in a fine 5-star restaurant in Athens or travelling several hours to come here, I know what they would choose every time. And it seems as though all the passing boats think exactly the same. Of a summer's evening, this place goes from a peaceful hamlet with just a couple of souls pottering about to a busy hub with the sounds of laughter filling the air. And in case you're wondering, the pick of the menu is the goat. This self-sufficient island is a great example of what can be achieved with a little bit of hard work and a whole lot of passion. This modest family have created a pleasant livelihood that also provides an important service to passing boaties. Best of all, it's done so in a way that's sustainable.
Although governed by the Dodecanese, Lέβιθα sits on the boundary of the Cycladic Islands and the Dodecanese Islands. It's pretty remote and in the middle of pretty much nowhere. Historians haven't been fair to Lέβιθα. There's not much written about it. But one fact remains, its position in the Aegean. Lέβιθα has always been in between trading routes and shipping lanes. As a result, it's always been an important point for navies and the military in history. And in the Second World War, the Germans believed this was such an important point that they fought hard against elements of the long-range desert group that were sent here to try and capture it. The battle was not a good one. No one was really a winner at the end of the day. And 5 of the Commonwealth troops lost their lives. 4 of them, New Zealanders. There's actually a plaque here for Douglas Athol Davidson, laid by his mother many years later. And it's plaques like this that are important to look at and reminisce about people that have lost their lives over the years on barren bits of island. Sad.
The far-reaching impacts of the world wars not only span vast distances, but great lengths of time. Generations have been touched, and the idea that a soldier from the other side of the world gave his life here is a powerful statement to the global influence these conflicts had. Unfortunately, humanity doesn't seem to learn much from the mistakes of the past, and perhaps the serenity of the island today is simply the calm before the next storm. Only 5 nautical miles west of Lέβιθα is Kínaro. Rounding the island, the geography gives you an overwhelming sense of a grand and dramatic theatre. One immediately assumes that there has to be great mansions and hotels on what seems a well-polished gem in the middle of the Aegean. Well, this couldn't be further from the truth. Here you'll find an abandoned village where only 2 people remain as permanent inhabitants. It's surreal to say the least, but what it lacks in people, it makes up for in natural beauty. The large inlet provides a safe anchorage to passing yachts, which is all the more reason you'd think that someone would have come along and built a tavern and other infrastructure here. But it remains lost in time, hidden from tourists and free from the clutches of developers. Irene and her son George have been living between Kínαρο and Australia for decades. Irene's husband has passed away, and she now chooses to live in Kínαρο permanently. She has daily chats with the family we met in Lέβιθα, and that's basically her closest contact to the outside world.
Τι κάνετε?
Καλά.
Καλά είμαστε.
Μια χαρά.
Τι νέα?
Καλά.
Τι άλλα νέα, τι γίνεται? Όλα καλά, ο καιρός καλός.
Ναι, σήμερα είναι καλός. Άλλες μέρες υφίσατε, σήμερα είναι καλός.
Ναι, αυτές τις μέρες είναι καλός,
Ναι.
George grew up in Australia and moved back here with his parents. He spends his time maintaining the limited infrastructure and tending to the gardens. It's a contrast to life back in Australia. But without his help, his mother would probably have had to resettle elsewhere. Unlike the family on Lέβιθα, these guys don't have a tavern and constant flow of visitors to interact with. Kínαro is totally secluded, and it's this isolation that appeals to Irene. When I first started this odyssey, our research identified 227 inhabited islands. Over the years, I've slowly discovered that for various reasons, this number has been dwindling. Today, our researchers have refined that number down to a more accurate figure of 157. And unfortunately, there's no doubt that islands like Kínαρο, which I've shown as inhabited, may not be so in years to come. Remote and solitary islands like this are where eventually the handful of people living on them give up and move to places where life is a little easier.
So, George, this is the old village, right?
Yep.
How many houses are here?
I think there are 4.
4 houses. So when did people live here last, in here?
The last person left, I think, in 1962. And then my grandfather was here only.
Yeah.
And my grandmother.
Wow. So we're talking almost 60 years ago.
Most abandoned villages look pretty much the same. Generally, there are some buildings that are recognisable and others that aren't. This village seems like it was lived in only a few decades ago, and because of this, there remains a feeling of loss when you walk amongst the ruins. I could picture people strolling along the paths and kids playing in front of the homes, where once there was so much life and energy. Today there's rubble and silence. The only building in any order is the church, and Irene comes up here regularly, not just because of her religious beliefs, but in memory of a helicopter crew that lost their lives on this island. 3 young men that she pays homage to, as if they were her own.
That's what I wanted to say. Εδώ είναι.
Το μνημείο, ναι.
Wow. Και αυτά είναι τα 3 παιδιά.
Ναι. Αυτό το φέρανε κάτι πιλότοι φίλοι τους το κάμαν, αυτοί το φέρανε.
Τι έγινε?
Πιλότοι φίλοι τους το φέρανε.
Ναι. Ποιος ήταν ο πρώτος να δει εκεί που έπεσε?
Εγώ πήγα πρώτη πάνω.
Εσύ ήσουν πρώτη?
Ναι.
Και τι είδες?
Είδα τα συντρίμια στο αεροπλάνο στις πέτρες προς τα γκρεμά.
Ναι.
Μετά είδα που είχε καεί κάτω όλο το ρεύμα.
Ναι.
Και απέναντι είχε ένα παιδάκι που τον είχε καμένο.
Ναι, καμένο.
Πιλότος.
On a tiny, seemingly lost island like this, Irene feels as though it's easy for people to forget these boys. However, she said that as long as she lives, she will remember them. And as long as her legs will carry her, she'll hike up to the church and light a candle for them. It's incredible to think that someone can have so much empathy and love for people they've never met. It's a testament to Irene's compassion. If more people thought this way, we would live in a far more peaceful and caring world.
Πάμε να ανάψουμε ένα κάνα κερί. Yeah.
In the early hours of the 11th February 2016, Captain Anastasios Toulitsis, co-pilot Konstantinos Pananas, and radar operator Eleftherios Evangelou were conducting nighttime exercises in their Bell 212 Hellenic Navy helicopter. At 2:45 a.m, all communication was lost and their radar signature disappeared. They'd flown directly into the mountainous eastern end of Kínaro. Irene was woken up with a call from the Navy, telling her that a helicopter was lost in the region. She had heard a loud explosion and immediately set off to locate the crash site, hoping to do whatever she could to help. Reaching the site, she quickly realised that the young men had no hope and that it would have been over in that brief moment. It would have been a very confronting experience, which helps explain her connection to the lost souls. The wreckage is still there, scattered on the hillside. The scars of the fire that engulfed the helicopter still remain. Similarly for Irene, the memories of that night are vivid and ever present. She has never forgotten about the boys that gave their life protecting her little part of the Aegean.
Παλικαράκια μας είναι στα κακόρια. Της Ελλάδος τα παιδιά. Καράκια μου. Αυτός είχε δύο παιδιά. Μετά που σκοτώθηκε, μετά από 2-3 μέρες γέννησε η γυναίκα του το δεύτερο, το αγοράκι. Αυτός είχε μια κοπέλα, είχε ένα στη δεκόρη του με τη μάνα της. Αυτός ήταν νιόγαμπρος. Οπότε το Σεπτέμβρη. Σκοτωθήκαν το Φλεβάρι. Τώρα αυτοί οι γονείς, τι θα τους πει, ότι να πούνε, ότι θα τους πεις, γιατρεύονται. Δεν γιατρεύονται. Πιο πολύ σκέφτομαι τις γονείς. Και τις λεβέντες.
All islands have their own stories of love, life, loss, war and peace. Some will be forgotten, while others will be etched in the annals of history. I think it's important that we all do our best to learn about the places and people we visit, to embrace their narratives and learn from them. For me, the lesson to be learnt from my time on Kínaro is the importance of empathy and to appreciate every moment you have. In the next episode, I'm heading back to Amorgos to finish up my exploration of the island. I'll be spending my time getting to know all about the food culture, as well as showing you a few of her best beaches. From there, we're cruising across the popular island of Ios, where you'll see that there's so much more to the place than the party scene it's famed for. It has a far greater depth to it that can only be discovered when you spend time with the locals.